The ANC has confirmed the expulsion of its former Secretary-General Ace Magashule. He was found guilty by the National Disciplinary Committee of the party last week for failing to apologise for his unilateral decision in 2021 to suspend President Cyril Ramaphosa. He was given 7 days to say why he should not then be expelled from the party. Let's now have this conversation. We're joined by our very own Samkele Maseko, our SABC News political reporter, as well as Professor Susan Booysen.
Mr. Magashule, I'm going to be on air.
And I think that is Samkele trying to speak to the former Secretary-General of the ANC. We'll get a sense then of how he's responding in just a moment. We'll also be joined by Professor Susan Booysen, political analyst, author, and visiting professor at the Wits School of Governance. Thank you so much to you both for your time. Samkele, I am going to come to Samkele in just a moment, but let me start with Professor Susan Booysen. Prof, a number of people are saying that they saw this one coming, and I wonder what is your take?
Yes, indeed. We know that it's very difficult for the ANC to actually get to the point of acting against their own members internally. But this one has been a long time in the coming. And since 2021, process unrolling, Ace Magashule and his followers did not manage to turn back the clock on the stepping aside motions, steps within ANC. And he had occupied Lutile House Secretary-Generalship for such a long time and caused so much damage and paralysis in the ANC after a prolonged period of practicing provincialism and really showing that he thought he could take over the ANC through a coalition of factions and provincial factions at that. So it was inevitable that this was going to come if the ANC was going to be brave enough to do that.
And talking about provincialism, I'm keen to find out what impact this is likely to have on the Free State as well as the national ANC. But I'm going to come back to you, Prof, on that one. Let me go to Samkele. Now, Samkele, we all know, we're always live on television. And by a stroke of luck, we heard you talk to the former Secretary-General who's now expelled from the ANC. What is he saying?
Bongi, just hold on. Mr. Magashule, I hope you can hear me. You are live on the SABC now. Just how are you feeling with the ANC expelling you from the organization, Mr. Magashule?
Well, let me tell you first, I said I will have a press conference next week so that you hear what I'm going to say. But for now, it's well with my soul. For now, I'm still jumping like a tennis ball, running like a cheetah, and floating like a butterfly. I'm very well. No crisis at all.
Mr. Magashule, why did you not respond to the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee, which gave you 7 days to respond?
Hear me next week. There was no way to respond. I did not have to apologize. Hear me next week.
So there will be no apology at all?
I have not. I was given a deadline. I did not apologize.
Are you going to be forming a new political organization or joining the EFF?
Let's talk next week because you'll get it from the horse's mouth. I'm the horse myself.
Me and you.
I'm still fine, man.
Me and you have
involved in politics. I'm going nowhere. I'm in politics.
So basically, it's either joining a new party, forming a new party, or joining a new one that has been established.
You'll hear me with the rest. I've promised everybody next week.
Thank you very much, Mtate Magashule.
Thank you.
Well, Bongi, that was member of the African National Congress, Ace Magashule, basically saying that he's not going anywhere within the political space. He's going to stay in the political space, not revealing much. I did try to get him for a sit down for one of our colleagues, in fact, for our boss, Mr. Mzwandile Mveche, later on this evening, due to the virtue that I will be traveling elsewhere tomorrow morning and couldn't do the interview. But he's saying that he will be speaking next week and he will also have that sit down with the South African Broadcasting Corporation, with the politics team, saying that he is going to be having a press briefing next week on his next political venture. Effectively, now a former member of the African National Congress, expelled from the party, just like Julius Malema, just like Carl Niehaus. Well, only time will tell if he still has political influence to be able to sway the Free State province against the African National Congress.
It'll be interesting, of course, to see. And let me, go back to Prof on this one. Prof, you heard everything for yourself, and we were talking about, provincialism. And just before we even get to the impact that this could have on some of the branches of the ANC, tell me what you made of that.
Yes, it's really quite evident circumstantially from how provincial politics in ANC have been transpiring. And we have seen that Ace Magashule, as he was losing official positions of power and being suspended from Secretary-Generalship, his influence really contracted. And this reminds one, said in a very respectful way, of how medically cancer is treated. First, it has to be reduced. The size of this growth has to be reduced in size, and then eventually it can be removed. And I think Ace Magashule's influence in the Free State province has come very close to that, in the sense that his influence, his following have been declined in that province ever since he hasn't been in the positions of premier, of provincial chair anymore. In politics and in ANC politics, that kind of patronship and patronage, an extensive system of patronage that Magashule had been erecting in the Free State. He'd been provincial chair there for, I believe, 25 years. He has had a huge system of influence, but that really depended so much on whether there would be continuous patronage to dispense, whether he would continue occupying those positions. And as that influence declined, so did his following in that province decline. And so, but the impact for the ANC has been huge. The province has stopped growing, have really been seeing decline in ANC support to a large extent, to one of the most stagnant provinces, if not shrinking provinces, for the ANC. And those are some of the legacies and some of the lessons that the ANC can learn from this type of leadership that has been ideologically uninspiring and really been based on patronage.
Prof, before I get back to Samkele, talking about the Free State, this happens at a time when the president has signed a proclamation that gives the SIU the green light to investigate several allegations into the office of the Free State Premier. Magashule is a former Premier of the Free State. It's quite significant that all of this is happening at this moment, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. I'm sure it's not coincidental that it's happening at the same time. We know there have been so many reports, so many allegations, so many anecdotal tales that have been told about Magashule's influence and control over the Free State province, that he's really been using that extensively since the early 2000s. And there have been many, many incidents that I believe deserve further investigation. So yes, and if he's removed from all of these positions, it means that those investigations can probably proceed much better, more efficiently.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens. And Samkele, a final question then to you. You talked about, of course, something that, a lot of people have been talking about over time, whether or not he's joining the EFF, asking him there, and he's not saying much, he's talking about next week. But how much life is he likely to have outside the ANC? Because a number of people have said that he's now in the political wilderness, and others have said in the past that it's cold outside the ANC. So will it really be cold for him, or how much life is he likely to have?
Julius Malema always says that they are making it warm outside the African National Congress with the economic freedom fighters. Bantu Holomisa tried his formed UDM. You see UDM's dwindling electoral fortunes. The EFF has done fairly well over the past 10 years, sitting at about just 10%, over 10% electoral support nationally within the country. They've done exceptionally well for themselves, celebrating their 10th anniversary later on next month in July, 50 days until that 10th anniversary of the EFF. Ace Magashule, a strong man, one of those who were influential in the ANC for getting Julius Malema expelled from the organization. Only time will tell how much support he has in the Free State. But as you can see, over the past few months, in his court case that we've been covering of the asbestos corruption, very few numbers outside the courtroom, speaking to the likes of those who've supported him, Supra Muamapilo, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Bongani Thomas Bongo, Batabile Dlamini, Dr. Zwelini Mkhize, Lindiwe Sisulu. They've all been to Paris, they've all been to Ace Magashule's residence here in Gauteng to persuade him against forming a political organization to oppose the African National Congress. But he is saying he's being persuaded to form a political party, but by the judge of things, only a few individuals in the Free State, like the former provincial chairperson Sam Mashinini, are still around him. You no longer see the likes of Tokota Likhwete, no longer see the likes of Supra Muamapilo. those whom political heavyweights in the ANC who used to be around him are no longer there. There's been reports of a frosty relationship between himself and former President Jacob Zuma as well. But we don't know on the ground what is happening in the Free State province. There are by-elections coming up in Mangaung with the ANC expelling those 4 councillors. What will Ace Magashule's role be in those by-elections in persuading those communities in voting against the African National Congress? His true test will be in these upcoming by-elections in the Mangaung region, in those townships where the ANC won previously and fired those councillors.
It's going to be interesting then to hear what he has to say next week about his next move. A lot of speculation in the public domain about what's to come, but let's hear then what he has to say. What did he say? Samkele, he says he's jumping like a tennis ball. Interesting. Let's see.
He says he's jumping like a tennis ball, flying like a butterfly, and stinging like a bee. But the buffalo seems to have dealt with that in the ANC. Outside the ANC, we don't know.
Let's see then if he'll be, of course, continuing to jump then next week as he has that press briefing. Let me thank you both for your time. Do appreciate it. That is Samkele Maseko, SABC News political reporter, Professor Susan Booysen, a political analyst, author and visiting professor at the Wits School of Governance.